Good afternoon and welcome back to Reference Roundtable. We're librarians here with the Sioux City Public Library, and we meet up once a week to talk books, movies, and kind of whatever else we want. I'm Kelsey, and with me today is Lacey. Please join in on our conversation by commenting below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what we're chatting about. Maybe you just want to share what book you're currently reading or the documentary you just watched, so please comment away. It's summertime, so of course that means it's summer reading. We have so many fun events at the library for kids, but a lot of people don't know that even we have stuff for adults, that there's programs and adults can win cool prizes at the library, because who doesn't like winning things? All you have to do is download an awesome free app on your phone called Beanstack. You can use it to track your reading time and complete reading activity challenges and get entered to win, gift cards from a ton of local businesses. This year we have Milwaukee Wiener House, Jitters, Sugar Shack. You could even win a box of Bings from Palmer Candy, and so much more. So that's this handy little reading program handout. So if you haven't grabbed one of these, you can visit any library location to do so. And in the months of June and July, we're kind of using this activity challenge as inspiration for all of our episodes. So one of the challenges that's listed on the back is listen to an audiobook. So we both did just that, and that's going to be kind of what we talk about today is summer listening with audiobooks. We're going to tell you kind of what we've been listening to, maybe how we listen, whether it's CD, audiobook, or Libby, and maybe even share a few of our go-to authors or narrators. Lacey, would you like to get us started? Well, you or me, so.
For sure. I'm going to get us started with my serious literary pick, and then I'm going to get fun. So we're going to start off real serious. So the first audiobook is The Dutch House by Ann Patchett, and it is narrated by Tom Hanks. Yes, that Tom Hanks. So this book has already been called a masterpiece by critics and readers. It was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize when it came out, which I believe was 2019. And so you've got an award-winning writer, an insanely famous narrator. It's a recipe for good, right? I also had to talk about this one in honor of Sarah, another librarian who's often on here. She was definitely hyping it up. So I thought it was only right to talk about it. So basically a summary of the story is the Dutch House is a lavish estate outside of Philadelphia. It was bought by Cyril Conroy after World War II, to kind of be a surprise for his wife. And in buying the house, it kind of set in motion the undoing of everyone he loves. So it's definitely a serious kind of story. The book is told by Cyril's son, Danny, and it unfolds in the 5 decades after World War II. Danny and his sister, Maeve, are exiled from the house, the Dutch house that they grew up in, by their stepmother, and it throws these siblings who have always been wealthy back into the poverty that their parents had left behind, and all they can count on is each other. So it's kind of all about these two children of Cyril Conroy and their struggles, and it is an incredibly wonderful, beautiful story. And the narrator just is really the icing on the cake for this great story. I don't remember exactly what Sarah said, but it was kind of like she described it like it was almost like watching a movie, hearing, like Tom Hanks reading in your ear. It just kind of makes this great story even more enjoyable.
I think he just has one of those voices you could just listen to just the whole time, and it's like intriguing and engaging, which you need an audiobook narrator to be, but it's also just like super comforting.
Yeah, it's like listening to
like America's Dad. You're like,
yeah.
I of course just want to listen to him read me anything and everything.
It's like having a friend read to you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know what it says about me that my first audiobook pick is fairly dark and thrillery. So, kind of not starting out with a very nice title, but I loved it and devoured listening to it. And it's The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. And it's narrated by Julian Rind Tutt. And I actually listened to this one via Libby because with so many cars, like not having CD players anymore and different things like that, I find that I sometimes just go to Libby right off the bat before I even visit our, physical audiobook collection. And I lucked out that this one's been so popular and I've been on hold for a really long time that randomly it was like, hey, I'm available. So of course I was like, yep, I got to do it. I can't delay this hold any longer. And kind of a summary of this one, it's, a thriller, but it's like a detective story / like paranormal horror elements to it, but it takes place in 1634. And Samuel Pepys is the world's greatest detective, but he's being transported to Amsterdam to be executed for a crime he may or may not have committed. So that, part, like, it starts off, you're like, so we're not sure if he committed it, but yet he's going to be executed. But, that's how the story goes. And traveling with him is his loyal bodyguard, Errant Hayes, who's determined to, prove his friend innocent. And then among the other guests is Sarah Wessel, who's a noblewoman that has a secret. But of course, no sooner does the ship take off and head out to sea that devilry begins to blight the voyage. So a strange symbol appears on the sail, a dead leper stalks the decks, livestock dies in the night, so it feels very like satanic, devilly kind of stuff going on. And then the passengers hear a terrible voice whispering to them in the darkness, promising 3 unholy miracles, followed by a slaughter. So they're not sure, but, maybe could a demon be responsible for their misfortunes? And then with Pepys imprisoned, being the greatest detective, he could figure it out. So that kind of detective work falls to Errant and Sarah. So they have to solve this mystery that stretches back into their past and now threatens to sink the ship, killing everybody on board. So, really happy story. But it, in a way, kind of feels like it's Shirley Jackson meets Sherlock Holmes, which I've never, really thought to put those two together when describing something, but it works perfectly for this book. But of course, the biggest part in any, narrated story is the narrator has to be good. Otherwise, you're not going to continue to listen. And Julian Rhind-Tutt's voice is very, melodious. He has a British accent, and it really... He still is able to, evoke that terror, though. He really, subtly differentiates between the ship's crew members. So he has, Dutch and English accents for both, which was really cool to listen to. But also his, calm voice really contrasts with the growing terror aboard the ship. So I could talk about his voice on, and, the great job he does throughout the whole thing. But it was just super cool to listen to. Sometimes with accents, I can't quite get into the story as much, but I didn't have any issues with this one. And as a bonus, there's an interview with the author at the end of the book. So that's kind of fun when they throw those, I guess, Easter eggs in at the end of different audiobooks.
I'm a big fan of historical mysteries. So mysteries set in different times. I think they're very cool. So I think I'm going to have to add that one to my list. And
it has a really cool cover. I wish I had it with me, but it's just dark and dreary and mysterious looking.
So very readable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on the flip side, my next one is kind of a funny novel. So if dark isn't your thing, maybe this one will be. It's Superhost by Kate Russo, narrated by Julia Wellen. And this is actually, I'm gonna kind of mark it for Kelsey here. It's actually our August book club book at the library. So if you want to read it or listen to it, you can come to the book club in August and talk to Kelsey about it. So you should do that. All right. So I guess I'll talk about the book first, and then I'll talk about the narrator. So the summary of Superhost is our main character is Bennett Driscoll. He is an artist who was once just rising up the art ladder into the world, but now he's 55. His wife has left him. His daughter's going to college, and his gallery wants to stop selling his paintings. They tell him his paintings are going to be more value retrospectively, meaning when he's dead. So he's not doing great. So all he's left with is a large house in West London and no money. So he decides that in order to make money, he is going to move into the artist studio in his back garden, and he's going to rent out his house on the popular vacation site Airbed, which is basically like a fictional version of Airbnb. And so that obviously sets off a whole series of things. The book is hilarious, and the audio narration makes it even better for me. I didn't actually know this, but Julia Wellen, the narrator of the book, is kind of just a big rock star right now in the audiobook world. She's narrated a ton of books and won a ton of awards in the last 10 years. Some of the titles she's done that you've probably heard of, at least one, if not most of these, is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, Educated by Tara Westover, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, and a ton more. But
just some minorly popular books.
Just some giant bestsellers.
Yeah.
So this book, like, it starts off and you're just like in this. You can already kind of tell the book you're going to get into. It is it's kind of an explicit book. I mean, it's not like overly sexual or anything, but there's swear words, there's adult stuff happening, so it's definitely an adult book. But you kind of jump in and there's funny things happening, and the way that she does it very straightforward makes it even funnier, the narrator. It's not like she's trying to be overly serious and like, but just the way she does it, I don't know, I can't describe it, but I was laughing like 30 seconds into the book. So I was already like, oh, I like where this is going.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend it if you want to read this book, to listen to the audiobook narration by Julia Wellen.
We did have a comment come in, so we'll see. Okay, I did that right. So Bill says that he's enjoying reading Superhost right now, and he's very eager for book club next month.
Good.
You and me both, Bill. You and me both. But we actually did, a couple of our colleagues had read the book already as well, like a couple months ago, and they're like, oh, I can't wait till you read that one and you discuss it. Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny, and it's always interesting, when our fellow colleagues will read the book club books, and then they're like, oh, I want to hear what they say at the discussion. So I'll have to report back to everybody on that one. So for my second one, I'm actually really going to focus on one of the narrators that I didn't really realize he was a favorite until I really started looking at his whole body of work. And then I was like, oh, I've listened to that one, loved that one. And that's Eduardo Ballerini. He was actually, in June of 2019, he was inducted as a Golden Voice, which is AudioPhile's Lifetime Achievement Honor for audiobook narrators. He's so good, whether he's narrating alone, in a duo, as part of an ensemble cast. I haven't honestly not finished an audiobook that he's been a part of, so I do flip through those a lot more than I do, So it's really not a do not finish, or, did not read, do not finish, whatever. But, and I've actually, kind of prepping for this, I listened to a couple interviews that he gave just about being an audiobook narrator, because I feel like a lot of actors try to make that jump, but not a lot of them, super enjoy it, or maybe they don't find as much popularity in it or anything like that. But in an interview, he talked about, that he's gotten a lot of feedback from fans over the years, and what has struck him about it is how personal in nature, that the responses are. And he thinks that for the reason for that is that there's an intimacy to this medium, and it offers, something that a lot of forms of entertainment don't, and that it's very personal nature. It's a very intimate relationship between the narrator and the listener, because really it's like a one-on-one type thing. Oh, we had a comment come in. I'm failing here. Jesse said, I loved The Devil in the Dark Water. I developed a real literary crush on Erin Hayes. She's not wrong. I did too. It's a very, very cool read. It is. So another plug for that book. But back to Eduardo. His first one that I absolutely loved was Inland by Taya Obrecht, which was actually a book club book last year. And he narrates it with fellow actor Anna Chlumsky. So you might know her from My Girl. And, of course, other things that she's been in, since being a child actor. But in that one, there's such a dynamic pair, and, they give a really authentic and emotionally rich performance. So that was really cool to listen to. But Lacey's actually mentioned The Cold Millions by Jess Walter. He actually reads that one with Marin Ireland, who's another pretty prolific narrator, Mike Ortego, and this full cast. And I listened to it after, Lacey recommended it, and he completely just like anchors the performance. I mean, everybody's good, but he really like stands out in it. And then one that I just recently checked out, but have not finished yet, is Anatomy of a Miracle by Jonathan Miles. And of course, he's narrated a ton of David Baldacci titles. He's done a Jodi Picoult one. So he really like does really big name authors, does some smaller up and coming ones. I feel like really can pick and choose whatever he'd like to narrate, and I'll probably listen to it. Oh, we got another comment.
Oh, we do.
Anne says, you always introduce me to authors who are new to me, and I agree that the readers make or break the audiobook. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Oh, we got another one.
One of my new favorite narrators, Jesse says, is Ray Porter. He read Project Hail Mary. And yes, Julia Whalen really is amazing. She is.
Yeah, she is.
Jesse told me about Ray Porter. I haven't listened to any of his stuff yet, but he's on my list. Kind of like our to be read pile. There's, kind of the to listen be read pile.
Well, they're kind of like authors in the sense that you're like, oh, I haven't heard of that book, but so and so is reading it, so I'm going to give it a shot. All right. Well, I feel like kind of I'm cheating for my third choice because it's a book series we've talked about before, and it really needs no introduction or love. It's universally beloved already, but I had to. It's the Walt Longmire series by Craig Johnson. And narrated by George Goodall. And we talk about him probably at least once a month, I feel like, these books. But I just cannot recommend the audiobook of these stories enough. Johnson is a great writer. These are great stories. You kind of fall in love with Walt and want to hang out with him. But the narrator just takes it up on a whole new level. I think this is the kind of audiobook that could like make you love audiobooks, even if you hate them, because he's so good. And Goodall is like, if Julia Whalen is a rock star, then George is like the Beatles. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for audiobooks. He is considered the most acclaimed and prolific narrator, and he's narrated more than 1,300 audiobooks in his career, and he's still going. So, yeah, if you're unfamiliar with them, I'll give you a quick little plug of what they're about. But that Walt Longmire is sheriff of the fictional Absaroka County in Wyoming. His county has usual rural crime, drugs, also an abnormally high amount of murders happen there. And it's just, it's a fun, but also very serious. There are real crimes. I mean, it's a story, but real crimes to the people in the story. A very engaging series. And I don't even know how many there are in the series at this point. 16?
16. Like I think the 17th one comes out next month or the month after.
So if you're needing a good series in your life, definitely recommend.
I know, I've listened to it too. So everything Lacey's saying, I'm like, yep.
It's fantastic.
Yep. So I have to finish off. Put Dagna's comment up here first. I've never listened to an audiobook, but listening to you makes me want to. Have you ever listened to one that the narrator does such a really bad job that makes you hate the book? Oh, definitely.
I have, and I can't even remember them because I like block them. Like I'm just like,
yeah, nope. I feel like you like put up this like
don't want to talk about it.
Like, nope, never again.
But there are some people that like, I almost think it's the ones that almost come off as like they're trying too hard. They're, especially if they're trying to do like voices, and if they're trying to like if it's a man and they're trying too hard to sound feminine. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It comes off as like, no, that's too much.
Well, it feels like fake acting.
Yeah.
Where, like it's too dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, coincidentally, another one. Anne says, I will try this series because of the narrator, so I guess I'm going to Wyoming.
I don't think you'll regret your travels, Anne.
No, not at all. Not at all. So Dagna's comment actually ties into my last one that I'm going to talk about, where a lot of times, especially both fiction and nonfiction, a lot of times the author will try to narrate their own titles, which can sometimes work out. Other times, really not so much, and can kind of, ruin the book so much that you hate it, which can be really unfortunate. But I promise, this one's a good experience. That it's the recently released memoir, Somebody's Daughter, by Ashley C. Ford, and she narrates her own story. Especially memoirs, I feel like sometimes it just adds a whole nother layer to it. It gives more emotion and connectivity to the story, and really kind of like deepens that relationship between the narrator and the listener, because then you really just feel like somebody's just right there telling you about their life. So Ashley does this great job of bringing listeners into her life. It's a very coming of age memoir, so she really kind of digs deep into her childhood and growing up. Her father was incarcerated when she was a toddler. She really differentiates the two sides of her mother in her memoir. So there's Mama, who was easygoing and kind, and then Mother, who was physically and verbally abusive to her. She really found herself, frequently, fending for herself, as a kid. But she believed her absent father, offered her unconditional love. At one point, she did suffer some sexual abuse. Her steadfast grandmother, is Ford's like sterling creation. Her spirit, her wisdom and influence like never wavered throughout her childhood. You kind of find yourself as a listener, like really like cheering for her, like as she attends college, you cry, she visits her father in prison and when he's finally released. And there's actually an animated interview with Ford where, she kind of talks about her own surprise at her emotional reaction to narrating her audiobook. So I would imagine it had to be a very therapeutic release to not write the book, but maybe it surprised her. I think it surprised her narrating it as well, that maybe there's just a different part you tap into, but also her great satisfaction, at accomplishing reading her own audiobook. So I really enjoyed it. So it was a good example of authors narrating their own works.
That's one thing I don't do, is I don't listen to a lot of nonfiction. Yeah. Usually if I'm listening to an audiobook, it's a story, it's a fiction. So maybe I'll have to do that more.
I mean, definitely think it can take a lot more trial and error with nonfiction than fiction, especially if you're doing a lot of like historical nonfiction. I think sometimes it can come across dry when you're listening because there's so many details and so much context, and just there's a lot.
That's probably why I've avoided it, just because it's probably a longer book too, so it's going to require more, time to listen. So that makes sense.
But people should give it a shot. Maybe you might,
definitely.
Maybe try a memoir or true crime first, something that, is going to have that emotional connection. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So thank you everybody for listening and commenting, and joining in on the conversation. Today we've talked about just a few audiobooks and just a few narrators, but the library has so much more than what we've been able to talk about in today's, under half an hour episode. So you definitely can visit any of our library locations to check out any of our physical audiobooks on CD. But also if you have a full access, resident library card, there is an abundance of even more audiobooks available on Libby, and it's super easy to listen there. Please feel free to comment if you're not able to catch us live. Also, if you have a question, especially if you're new to downloading Libby or anything like that, or you want to know if we have a particular audiobook, or you just want to reach out, you can email us at questions@siouxcitylibrary.org. Hopefully you can join us again next week for another Reference Roundtable. Until then, keep reading, Sioux City.